Hi, David. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us here today. Could you start off by telling us a little bit of the background of Emergent Metals?
Sure. Emergent Metals is a Vancouver-based junior exploration company whose business model is to treat strategic acquisition, value creation through modeling and historic exploration, and through divestiture of our assets. So you can think of us like a property flipper that you might see on television, where we acquire undervalued property, add value to it, and then try to flip it to another person to advance it. So we trade on the Toronto Venture Stock Exchange under the symbol EMR, and OTCQB under the symbol EGMCF, and on the Berlin and Frankfurt Stock Exchanges under the symbol EML. So we look to acquire existing properties that are adjacent to existing mines or advanced stage properties, or we look for properties that have synergy by putting several properties together in an area, or potentially buying a property from a distressed company that's looking to move on and do something else. So we typically acquire these properties with data sets of historic information, and we take those data sets and reanalyze them using modern methods, and then we do exploration and do technical reports on the properties and try to advance them that way. So it's been fairly successful for us. We did an acquisition of the Troilus North property in Quebec, which we sold to Troilus Gold for $250,000 in cash and 3.75 million Troilus shares. We acquired the East West property in Quebec and sold it to O3 Mining for $750,000 in cash and 325,000 O3 Mining shares. We acquired a property called New York Canyon in Nevada, which we did an option to earn in agreement, or earn in with option to joint venture agreement, I guess would be a better way of describing what we kind of call exploration. And they're a subsidiary of Rio Tinto, one of the largest mining companies in the world. So they're going to spend $22.5 million US to earn up to a 75% interest in the property.
Great. So as you said, Emergent Metals is focused on gold, silver, and base metal exploration. Are there any strategic reasons behind for choosing Nevada and Quebec as your project locations?
Yeah, both jurisdictions are pro-mining and have a significant number of mining companies working in them. So Nevada was ranked number 3 and Quebec was ranked number 6 in the Fraser Institute's 2021 survey of mining companies for attractiveness of investment. So in 2021, Nevada produced about 4.9 million ounces of gold, or 77% of US production. Quebec produced about 1.9 million ounces of gold, or 27% of Canadian production. So there's excellent geology there, potential for discovery, potential for acquisition of properties through staking or purchase of properties, and lots of opportunities to divest the properties. So, they're good places to work. Quebec offers competitive tax incentives for investors. So they have what are called super flow-through tax investments, where investors can buy shares in your company and get a tax write-off when they do it for exploration activities that occur in that province.
I see. So we were glad to hear that Emergent Metals recently hit visible gold in the initial drill holes at the Trecesson property. Could you elaborate a little bit more on this?
Sure, we have an ongoing drilling program at Trecesson. So it's a property located just east of Amos, Quebec, and it's about 50 kilometers north of the Val-d'Or mining camp. So previous company called Nick Exploration had drilled about 154 holes on the property in 2011 and 2017. So that's about 6,700 meters of drilling. And they completed a technical report, which we treat as historic at this point in time. But they hit some very high-grade intercepts, greater than 10 grams per ton gold in several holes. So we started a drilling program there late in 2022, and it's carried on into 2023. A couple of our holes hit visible gold. So 2 of the first 6 holes in our targeting of what's called the South Cassette vein target, and we're continuing to drill there and are waiting for our first assay results to come in. So we plan to drill 2 targets there. One's called the North Cassette and one's called the South Cassette vein system. And we're drilling deeper holes than what Nick drilled, and also drilling along strike to try to extend the size of those targets.
I see. So let's dive into your New York Canyon property. Recently, the news announced that there is a new copper target found there. And what are your thoughts on this early stage exploration property?
Yeah, we acquired New York Canyon from a company called Searchlight Resources. It's a property that had been drilled in the 70s through to the 1990s by companies like Conoco and Kookaburra Resources. So they drilled about 161 drill holes and about 96,000 feet of drilling. Searchlight, who used to be called Canyon Copper, came in and drilled about 28,000 feet of additional drilling in 73 holes between 2004 and 2006. And they completed a technical report in 2010 with a resource on the Longshot Ridge project that we treat as historic. So the property really didn't get any exploration between 2006 until 2021. So when we acquired the property, we immediately did this earn-in with option to joint venture with Kennecott Exploration, the subsidiary of Rio Tinto, and they increased the size of the property as part of the transaction with them to about 8,700 acres. And they focused on drilling 3 known targets there in 2021. So they were called Longshot Ridge, Copper Queen, and Champion. So they're exploring for copper skarn and copper porphyry mineralization. So they completed about 14,700 feet of drilling. So in 2022, they came back and they did exploration on a separate block of claims that's part of the agreement that's to the north of the southern block. And they did geological mapping. They did a drone magnetic survey, orthographic survey, and they did a bunch of soil and rock chip sampling. So they took 41 rock chip samples, and the average grade of those samples was 1.735% copper. And there was a silver component of 39.74 grams per ton silver, as well as other metals. So you can see a press release we put out on January 26, 2023. But they've essentially discovered a new target that we're calling Emma, that they're looking to explore and drill in 2023. So they're planning on mobilizing a drill in the first quarter of the year here. They're going to be drilling the new Emma target, as well as an area to the southwest of the Copper Queen target initially. So they're primarily trying to target drilling through the skarn mineralization and looking for a deeper porphyry system below that.
Nice to hear about such a detailed information about this property. So to conclude, could you tell us if there are any catalysts or milestones in the year 2023 that the investors should be looking for?
The main things right now were the drilling at Trecesson. So we're still completing the program, and we probably expect to have assays coming in within 30 to 60 days, and they'll trickle in over a period of time depending on the availability of the assay lab. So we'll be putting out information on that drilling, and then we plan to take a break in the drilling and analyze the assays and the data that comes back, and then potentially go back with another drilling program later this year. We also acquired some claims on the northern part of the Trecesson property that had been drilled in the 1980s. So there's another target that we have in addition to the north and south cassette vein systems, and it's called the Spirit Lake target historically by Nick Exploration. And so we look at expanding the drill program to cover that area. And then obviously the drilling at New York Canyon, that'll be starting in the first quarter of this year. So we would expect hopefully to get assays coming in the second quarter of the year, and potentially beyond that, depending on how much drilling Kennecott Exploration expects or ends up doing this year. They're primarily starting with 2 to 3 holes in these targets that they've identified over the last year, and once they drill those holes, to make a decision about how much additional drilling decide to do this year. So those are the main catalysts in the first half of the year.
Great. Thank you, David, so much for your time here today. And this is the end of the interview that we have with you today. I think investors should follow your stock closely for some of the exciting developments in the year 2023. And once again, thank you so much.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.